All right, so you're gearing up for the AWS Solutions Architect exam. You know AWS Organizations is going to be on there, but look, just knowing the name isn't going to cut it. In this explainer, we're diving deep, past the basics, and getting into the critical configurations that you absolutely have to know to build a secure, scalable, and really well-governed cloud environment.
Okay, let's kick this off with a quote that honestly hits a little too close to home for a lot of us. Most teams enable AWS organizations, create a few OUs, and stop there. They're missing the configurations that actually matter. And you know, this is such a common trap. Anyone can create a few folders and call it a day, but it's the policies, the integrations, and the delegation model that really separate a basic setup from one that's truly ready for production. So let's go find those configurations that matter.
First things first, we need to get on the same page with the language here. We have to stop thinking about AWS organizations as just a simple folder structure for your accounts. No, these are the fundamental building blocks for your entire multi-account strategy.
So it's all about the hierarchy. Right at the very top, you've got the management account. Think of this as the root of your entire AWS universe. It pays all the bills, and it has the final say on everything. Everything else that lives under it is a member account. These are just your regular AWS accounts where all the real work gets done. And how do we group them logically? Well, that's where organizational units, or OUs, come in. These OUs are the containers we're going to use to apply our policies.
Now here's a quick but super important piece of advice, especially if you see this on the exam. Avoid creating deep, complicated OU structures. I know it seems organized to have folders inside of folders inside of folders, but trust me, it turns troubleshooting policies into an absolute nightmare. Why? Because an account's final permissions are this weird mashup of policies from every single level above it. Keeping your OU structure relatively flat, maybe just 2 or 3 levels deep, is going to save you a world of headaches down the line. Okay. So we've got our structure. Now it's time to unlock the real power of AWS organizations, and that is enforcing centralized guardrails. This is how we use policies from a single place to standardize and lock down your entire environment at scale.
First up, tag policies. Now, this might sound kind of basic, but it is foundational for good governance. A tag policy lets you force every new resource to have certain tags, like cost center or environment. So why does this matter so much? Well, it's absolutely essential for figuring out who's spending what, for managing the life cycle of your resources, and for proving you're in compliance. With these policies in place, nothing gets deployed without a name tag.
Okay, listen up, because if there is one single thing you need to walk away with for your Solutions Architect exam, it is a rock-solid understanding of service control policies, or SCPs. This is a guaranteed topic, and it's one of the most misunderstood parts of AWS organizations.
This slide right here cuts through all the confusion. I want you to think of SCPs like an electric fence around the property. They do one thing. They set the absolute boundaries of what's possible inside an account. They define the maximum available permissions. That means even the root user or an administrator in a member account cannot step outside these guardrails. But, and this is the critical part you have to remember, SCPs only build defense. They never ever unlock any gates. They do not grant permissions. You still need a separate IAM policy to actually give someone access to do something inside those boundaries. In short, SCPs only deny.
All right, so we've built our structure, we've put up our guardrails, so what's next? Well, now we have to talk about how you actually run this thing day to day. This is the operating model, and it's all about delegating responsibility using a feature called Trusted Access and creating specialized accounts.
Here it is, the North Star for any well-architected organization. Your management account should be a ghost town. Seriously. No workloads, almost no resources, and access should be extremely restricted. Its only job is to handle billing and organization-level governance. That's it. So that's the big question, right? How do you manage all your big, important, organization-wide services without putting them in the one account you're supposed to lock down? That's the exact problem that delegation solves.
And the mechanism that makes all this possible is called Trusted Access. The best way to think about it is as a formal digital handshake. It's you, from the top of your organization, giving permission to a specific AWS service like Security Hub or Guard Duty to operate across all the accounts in your organization on your behalf. It's the foundational yes that lets a service see and act across your entire cloud estate.
So here's how it works step by step. First, you enable trusted access for a service you want to use, like AWS Config. As soon as you do that, AWS automatically goes out and creates all the necessary service-linked roles in your member accounts for you. Then comes the key step.
You designate one specific member account to be the delegated administrator for that service. And from that moment on, that specialized account, and not the management account, is in charge of managing that service for the entire organization.
And what kind of services are we talking about here? We're talking about the heavy hitters, the big guns for security and operations. Things like AWS Security Hub for managing your security posture, Guard Duty for threat detection, IAM Identity Center for centralizing user access. You get the idea. Delegating the administration of these tools isn't just a nice-to-have best practice. It's fundamental to properly separating duties and reducing the blast radius of that all-powerful management account.
Okay, we've covered the components, the policies, and the delegation model. We've got all the pieces on the table. So now, let's put it all together and see what a real-world, best practice architecture actually looks like.
And here it is. This is the AWS Security Reference Architecture, or SRA. For the Solutions Architect exam, you need to get very comfortable with this diagram. This isn't just a pretty picture. This is the blueprint for a secure, well-architected multi-account setup, and it uses every single concept we have just talked about. Let's zoom in on that security OU. See, it's not just one account. There's a security tooling account. This is the delegated administrator for services like Guard Duty and Inspector. This is where your security team lives and works. And right next to it, you have the log archive account. Its only job in life is to be a super secure, immutable central bucket for all of your logs. Access is locked down tight to make sure your audit trail is untouchable. Okay, now let's slide over to the infrastructure OU. This is home to the network account. This is where you manage all your centralized networking gear. Things like your transit gateways, your firewalls, all the stuff that every other account needs to use. This creates a really clean separation of duties between your network team and your application teams who can now just consume the network as a service.
And this brings us right back to the core principle. This entire architecture, the whole thing, is built on the foundation of delegated administration. By moving security, logging, and networking out into their own specialized accounts, we make sure that the management account stays clean, secure, and focused purely on billing and high-level governance. This is exactly the kind of design AWS wants to see.
So as you keep studying for your exam, and maybe as you look at your own company's AWS setup, ask yourself this one question. Your organization is set up, but is it truly configured? Are you actually using these powerful policies and delegation patterns to build a foundation that's secure and scalable by design? Or have you just created a fancy folder structure? Because that difference, right there, is everything.